Hello you guys, how are you? Ali Whitecheck here from Square One, and I promise a Facebook Live today, and I hope you're well. It's freezing in Brisbane. I guess freezing for us is like 17 degrees. It's really not that bad, but I've got my heating on. I'm working from home as I do, and yeah, just really ready to answer some questions. I was very grateful that a lot of you actually posted some questions before today, and so I prepared a few answers that I really hope are going to help. And I know that customer experience is a little bit of a new space for a lot of you. You know, maybe the corporate guys have a better understanding around customer experience, but ultimately it is something that small side businesses and entrepreneurs especially don't quite grasp 100%, and I totally get it. It is definitely something that I want to change, and that's the mission that I have with my business, which is really truly make customer experience and empathy and as accessible as it can be to you guys in Australia and overseas. So I'm gonna wait. Someone just joined. Who is there? Is that Anthony? Say hello if you're there. Sorry, I'm just moving my camera. I probably shouldn't be doing that. My bad. Okay, cool. So I put some answers for some of the questions that I received. Hello to whoever has joined. I can't see the names, but anyway. Okay, so I had some really good questions coming in, and probably the first one is around what is customer experience? Yeah, the basics of customer experience, right? So customer experience is really the way that you're able to put your product or service out there to customers in a way that feels personal and authentic to your customers. So customer experience is ultimately the way your customers will feel about you or your product or your service after the purchase made or during the process of actually thinking of buying your products or services. So it's how ultimately you make them feel, and customer experience is holistic, right? So when I say holistic, I mean it really oversees everything within your organization. So it will look after your marketing, it will look after your customer service, and there's a lot of sometimes misunderstanding around customer service and customer experience are completely different things. Customer experience is above and beyond everything, and customer service is just a little bit part of that. So let's say, you know, your customer experience is your house, and then you have your little bedrooms, and every bedroom is your marketing or your CRM or your customer service or your UX or you would have your culture. So you would have different things happening, right? So customer experience is ultimately the delivery of an experience that is going to be consistent, unique, and is going to be personal to that customer first time, every time. And that's what you want to make your customers feel, that during the process of engaging with you, you're truly delivering something that they want from you, and that they never even ask for it, that you just know what they need from you. So it's a lot of proof that from big businesses, and we know those big brands like Uber and Amazon, those are brands, and even Netflix, those are brands that deliver a great customer experience, that they're definitely really big on the data side of things. So they're really able to articulate what customers' behaviors have been in the past, so they're in fact able to provide an experience that is it is given by a lot of technical knowledge. However, it is also given because they have understood the customer from a personal level. They probably had spent a lot of time talking to customers and being face-to-face with customers just to truly get a lot of insights and putting themselves in the customer's shoes. So customer experience is something that bigger businesses that have access to data do really, really well. But even, you know, entrepreneurs and small businesses, like everyone has the opportunity to jump in this space. And so customer experience is definitely something that even I actually believe that small businesses have a better chance to be faster and more agile in this space, just purely because you're ready. Like you're not a big dinosaur that takes so much longer to move, and you have 200 people organization behind you to try to move into that space. It's probably you and maybe someone else and maybe another 30 or 40 staff. That is very doable, and you can actually move really, really fast. If you don't think that that's achievable, it is actually quite achievable. So that is customer experience, and it actually is very helpful. There's a lot of research that talks about how customer experience not just enhance the results of your business, of your bottom line. So customers will be coming back to you time and time again. Forrester has done a massive amount of research on this. How it actually improves customer experience is highly linked to your customer retention rates. Customers will not just be shopping with you once, they will be coming back, so the customer life cycles are greater and bigger, which means they're also going to be loyal to your brand. They're going to be telling other people, so referrals are going to grow, your marketing spend is going to decrease, and customer experience is a win-win situation if implemented properly. So that is me, and I'll stop ranting on that question. But yeah, so the other question which I also got asked is, what is the best way to get feedback on your customer experience journey from your clients? So customer experience journey, it is a tool that, for those who don't know what customer journey mapping is, or customer experience journey, it is ultimately a tool that is used for you to know when someone is considering your product or services to the point that they are an advocate for your brand or they're devoted for your brand. You totally know what are the steps that they're moving from and to, and so you're able to understand what is the behavior across all of these blocks of consideration, awareness, consideration, purchase, and retention, if we just want to put it in a very simple way. Then you want to know what exactly is happening to that person. So you develop customer personas or avatars, people call them as well. And then you jump from every step with that customer. It's literally you're just there seeing what they're doing and what they're seeing and what they're feeling. So it's a lot of empathy going on as well. So you need to see what they're doing, you need to understand what they're seeing, you need to see what they're feeling, and you need to also understand what sort of behaviors, what sort of challenges and pain points they have during that process. So that's kind of the customer journey map. It is a great tool to give you some really great ideas around what's working and what's not. But it is something that it could be quite important and quite empowering to do in your business. So best ways to get feedback. One of the best ways I will say it is ask your customers if the experience that you thought you were providing was actually delivered. So if you actually want to know very, very simply if there is one product or the one service that you want to make sure that the experience that you provided was what your customers were expecting, it is very simple. You just ask them. You simply go out to the top 10 customers, or you pick 10 or 5. I would probably say start between 5 and 10 and actually get some feedback from these people that bought your products or people that experience your product or services, and say, what's the experience that we provided what you were expecting? How could we have made the experience better? Is there anything that we could have done differently? Could you provide us can you give us some direction? It will give you a lot of insights, and this could be a conversation. It could be a conversation, right? Like it could be a phone call that you do to those customers. It could be a one-on-one that you do with these customers. There are many, many ways that you can go about it. In terms of voice of the customer, which is the term used for just doing market research pretty much, you can do online surveys, you can do phone calls, you can do focus groups. Focus groups are probably a little bit expensive and they're quite limited, but they give a lot of value as well, right? So it depends on how you want to see your customers. If you're coming from a place of not asking your customers regularly, I would actually say just start really, really small by having a one-on-one conversation with a customer that you have some rapport with, and that you're able to actually you will feel probably slightly vulnerable at first, and because it might be a little bit scary that you don't know what that person is going to tell you, but you will be surprised of the value of that conversation and actually how much that person actually genuinely wants to help. If you pick someone who's had a really nasty experience, that might be a very different conversation, but you need to be prepared for that differently, right? But if you pick those customers that are genuinely interested in you and you want to get some information from them, just ask them. Just prepare 3 to 5 questions that will be really, really important to get some clarification as to what do you think across that purchase or across that service could have been quite painful for them to do, and then try to then have some questions around those pain points that you believe could have been, maybe not 100%. You think that, it was okay, but not our best, right? So, hi, Rachel, how are you? So good to see you after all this time. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry guys, just saying hello to my friend. So the other thing that you can also do is social media listening. So social media listening is a great way for those who kind of don't feel 100% asking customers face to face. So you can really just revise your analytics. You can see what has worked and hasn't worked. Are people quite engaged with your community? And you can also use it as a platform to ask questions. You can actually put a few questions and say, I would love to know from customers who have purchased this product or this service from us, what you thought about it. That would be great, and we will so value your feedback. You can actually use some incentives if you like for them to give you those answers. You can say, we'll give you 10% off, or we'll give you a free something, or we'll something. You can think of something that could be meaningful, right? So you basically use your social media for that. So that could be a really powerful way to do it. Another way is definitely, I think I kind of mentioned and touched on this earlier, is online surveys. So online surveys is something that is quite good to get a lot of people answering the same questions. And there are many ways. You can use SurveyMonkey, you can use some other platforms as well, and they're quite good because you're not actually having those nasty conversations at first or something that you're quite uncomfortable, and they're very efficient. You get information right away. You can pay for a better membership and actually get to the demographic that you want to get to. You can use your existing email database if you have it, and you're able to send it to your database and say, hey, this is something I would love you to help us with. We're working on improving our services and our products just to make you have a better experience, and we'll love your feedback. It could be a very simple email, and actually people genuinely want to help. So online surveys could be a really good way. And even like a coffee meeting, like why not to actually get your teams from customer service, or even your CEO or the founder of your business. If you're the founder of your business, why not to call one customer and say, I would love to meet you for coffee? What if you met a customer every week? What it is really important to highlight is that it's not so much about the meeting. You would get a lot of insights and information from this meeting. What's really, really important though is to implement on the information that was given to you. If you believe you're not in a position to implement information that was given to you, or follow through, or at least say we were looking at implementing these changes, or yes, this definitely will provide a lot of value, not every customer will be right. Not every customer will give you information that it is operationally and financially viable, right? But if you get a chunk on people and you see some themes going on, say, I don't know, your shopping experience sucks and something needs to change, then you know that you need to make changes to your website. If someone is trying to check information on your FAQs and there is nothing relevant on your FAQs, and you know that you need to write some content that is actually going to help and minimize that friction. So make sure that whatever insights you're getting, you're actually implementing those. And what's also really, really important is that you're able to follow through the implementation and let those customers know that you made those changes, right? So they will feel empowered. They will feel very grateful that ultimately you took You took some of their feedback, implemented it, and following through. You're letting them know, and they will be very grateful and very likely become even more loyal to your brand, or will tell a lot of other people about it. So that is my advice. Another question that I received from some of you guys was, what is the one thing to avoid in customer experience land? And thank you, Claire. This came from you, Claire Barton. So assumptions, that is the number one thing to avoid. And this applies for everything, guys. So stop thinking that you know your customers. And you probably think that you do know your customers very well. I do think that myself, and I'm very wrong. I don't know my customers 100%. And I'm still learning, right? We're all going to be learning because our customers are changing, behaviors are changing, social media trends, new products, new services, new ways of engaging with the digital environment. Everything is changing. If you assume that you know your customers better than anyone else, then you're wrong. And I'm very sorry to say that, because you're a business owner and you work probably 80 hours a week on your business perhaps, and you're like, who is this girl? Who is this Ali Wycheck telling me that I don't know my customers? Well, I'm nobody, but I know for a fact that as a business owner myself, I've made a lot of assumptions about my customers, because like, oh yeah, they need that for sure. Like, and it's definitely not about them. It's about me thinking and assuming. So it's really shifting your behavior or your thinking into having that outside inside approach, that rather than an inside outside approach. So rather than you thinking that your services and your products are like needed by your market's got to tell you that your services and products are exactly what they need from you. You're not going to have a successful business if your customers don't tell you exactly what that experience needs to look like and what it feels like. And I think it really takes a lot of gut and a lot of courage and a lot of being slightly vulnerable in that space as well. As a business owner, it's really, really hard, because we love our ideas, and we really love our businesses as, you know, as if they were our child. So if you make sure that you don't make those assumptions, then make sure that you don't. So if you haven't asked your customers ever for any feedback or in a while, then you're making big assumptions. If you have a big product coming up and you haven't asked them, then something's got to change. I was having a great conversation with someone this morning, and there is this great big organization in Sydney, and they were working on a $250,000 app that they wanted to put out there, and it was actually for people to pay fines. So you download the app and you pay a fine on your phone, and you know, easy, right? Like, it's great experience. So it turns out that they were working on this product for so long, and they hadn't asked the customers if they wanted actually to use an app to pay for a fine. So the 95% of customers said that they would actually will not download the app because it was a negative app. It wasn't something they would not enjoy, and they will not download an app to pay a fine. So there you go. This is a big organization, guys, and they did not go through the process of validating this idea with the customers, right? So that is there and there. So the other question that I did receive from Lisa Formosa was around how can you create, so she's creating an e-commerce website, and she wants to make sure that, you know, their customers or her users are coming back, and that the experience is consistent and is seamless. So there are a couple of things that, you know, anyone having an e-commerce website or wanting to launch an e-commerce website needs to think about. So I would probably say, hi Dave, hello. I would probably say, think of what are the most painful touch points during that purchase process, right? So if you put yourself in your customer's shoes, and you would think, okay, so if you could think of the most painful touch points that someone would have during that purchase, then you will go and say, right, so probably the path of jumping onto the landing page and then actually moving on to the category page for, I don't know, women's dresses. And that user experience is not quite nicely done, so that is a bit of friction there. Or it could be the amount of people that actually are putting things into the basket, and then, you know, they get busy with life, they forget about it, and you don't have an email reminder for your basket being abandoned. And then people kind of want to come back and they're like, oh, I just had 10 items on the basket and I lost it, and I need to start again from scratch. So you could probably prioritize those pain points in terms of the most painful to the less painful, and make then those super easy from a UX point of view. So make sure that the user experience is super easy for that customer. And there are a lot of technical things that you can do. So there is something called CROW, which is customer retention optimization, rate optimization, sorry. And it's really about understanding the behavior of your customer as they're going through the experience. So it's actually something that uses a lot of technical UX research to make sure that the experience that you're providing on your website is as what your customers want from you or what your users want from you. Another thing that you can think about is moments of delight. So clearly your customer journey or your user journey in this because it's not so much a customer journey, it's more a user journey, is okay, so if I want my customers to land on this page and then move on to this next page and then move on to the next page to make a payment, then you kind of go, all right, so is there anything that I can do during that journey that I could give delight to my customers, and I could give something that they did not expect. And it could very much be something that happens afterwards. So for example, if they purchase something from you and they received an email confirmation, it could very much be that, well, you promised 48-hour delivery and it turned out to be a 12-hour delivery, a 24-hour delivery. That's massive. Like, you're completely going above and beyond what that person was expecting from you, and you know that you can deliver it. So you can do that. Amazon does that all the time. There's people that get items within an hour, here in Australia, but in the US of, an hour of ordering something. So that's something that you can do. It could be also the emails that they receive afterwards. They could have like a special discount to buy over the next 3 months, over the next 12 months, depending on the life cycle of your product with those customers. So you can do that as well. So it very much depends on your user experience on your website, making sure that all of the friction points that could be quite critical for that purchase to take place are minimized to the minimum, and then ensuring that you are tracking a lot of these with CROW. You can work with some CROW providers just to make sure that you're actually getting that understanding of your customers. So that's something that I will say. Another question that I got was, what sort of triggers would make a small retailer think of getting some help with CX? And that's a really great question. Thank you, Anthony, for providing that question. So one of the things, or one of the symptoms that I call for a business, large or small, to want to do anything in the CX space is you are either losing existing customers or you're gaining new customers and they're not coming back. You're gaining new customers, but they're not staying around. They're just disappearing, right? So those are two things that I probably say are probably the highest and most likely symptoms for your business to have today to then say, ooh, something's got to change. It could also be a lot of customer complaints. So your customer service team are getting a lot of complaints and things are not going as smooth as you thought they would. Unmotivated staff is actually quite a big key, and even though it doesn't seem to be directly linked to your customer experience, it actually is. If your staff, for whatever reason, is unmotivated, if your staff retention is actually pretty bad or pretty low, or it's not as good as it used to be, it's probably very likely that there is a culture issue, that people within your business are not actually providing a great experience for your customers. And that's not an easy one to pick up on, but it is a very, very, very important part of the journey and the process, because if your staff and your employees are not happy, that's going to be resonating with your external side of the equation, so your customers and your experience. So you would probably have to do a little bit of digging around internally just to really get some understanding as to where you are in terms of your culture and whether people are feeling empowered and engaged and motivated. Another thing will be poor social media engagement. So you put in a lot of content, you're working really, really hard to get a social media strategy going on and with social media engagement, and then it's not quite happening. It could be that in these different environments, you don't quite understand the environment. So for example, if you're on Instagram and you're putting a lot of imagery that isn't quite what the Instagram audience wants, because Instagram audience probably they want some pretty images, but they also want some inspirational quotes or something that is quite unique. So if you're putting like a little image that isn't quite fits the screen on Instagram, then people are like, oh, this feels weird, so they don't engage, they disconnect. And same if you're doing things on Facebook, for example, if you are putting a lot of things that are not quite engaging, and your audience, you think your audience is on Facebook, but they're in fact on LinkedIn or they're on Snapchat. It depends on where your audience is at, right? So make sure that you are in the right environments for the right audience that you want to get traction with. A lot of the times we just want to be in every single social media platform possible, but that's not efficient. Efficiency will be for you to be in the 1 to 2 platforms that you definitely know your audience is engaging with, and use them really, really well, and then move to the next, and then move to the next, and then move to the next. That's social media. That's the best social media engagement. Another thing is around, what are the symptoms of the triggers for a small retailer or a retailer to think of getting some help in CX is really high marketing spend, or like your marketing budget spend with very little return on investment. And it could be that you're doing all the tracking and you're having a lot of people kind of giving a lot of reporting, yet your return on investment isn't quite there. Well, it's very likely that you are not investing in the right places. It could be that your media buy is not as efficient because you think you should be targeting different environments, and that's not where your audience is hanging out anymore, So really look at your marketing spend and your return of investment, and if these are they're not really giving some good signs, then something's got to change. Another question, which is this is probably more like on the SEO space, but I'll answer it anyway, which was, okay, so when you visit websites, right? So you're visiting a website for the first time, and straight away you get a pop-up chat window, or, a pop-up screen from someone who wants to help. And what experience does that give? Is that wrong to be that pushy, or is it okay? There is a lot of algorithms now happening with the Panda update on Google. And so my understanding is that since they did the last release, is that all of those pop-up windows will be banned from Google unless they're truly picked up by the algorithm that is valuable to that user. So there are things that you can do to not be as intrusive. There is a lot of best practices that you should wait at least 15 seconds before you are giving this pop-up window and putting it in front of someone's face, right? So you could do that. The other things that you can do is that if you're already tracking that person's IP and that cookie, is that you are not reserving that pop-up window to that person when they're coming back to the website, because they have already either click on it or not engage with it. So you could actually make sure that you're tracking this behavior, and then you're able to put this pop-up window. You could actually create a funnel around your pop-up window. So for example, if you're having return visitors to your website, you would have a pop-up window that, you know, happens 15 seconds after they came to the landing page or whatever page. And then if they didn't engage, then you could make sure that if they provided their email addresses, for example, that you're serving them with that content. So you probably need to have this link back to your CRM to make sure that you're serving that content to that person. And you could also be tracking these on social media, right? So for example, if you're on Facebook, well, you could equally serve that content on social media. So probably a little bit of retargeting on your content. But yeah, definitely when you have those pop-up windows, I find them personally very annoying, if especially the first thing I want to see is just someone's landing page and all I'm getting is a big pop-up window. So I find that quite disruptive. And also the majority of users nowadays are also on their mobile phones, right? So the rates of, someone accessing your website from a mobile phone, it is, between 70 and 80%. So what that means is that those little windows are really, really annoying on a mobile phone. So you got to be quite smart about it, and make sure that maybe you embed it somewhere on your page that is quite relevant. So above default, not below default, because the rate will decrease of people who actually put in their email addresses, but you can do things like that as well. So that's the other question. And then the last question was, I think we kind of touched on this. So customers often don't complain to big businesses about their customer experience. They just put up with it or disappear. How do you get clear and honest feedback? This is an excellent question, and I love this question because if you are a shopper, as we all probably are shoppers, you probably know that you do not provide feedback in most cases when an experience wasn't as nice as you thought it was going to be, or you're not as happy. It has to be actually a quite extreme experience for you to go, I need to say something about it. And when you do say something about it, clearly it's a lot of bad news, because that goes to twice as many ears, and then twice as many ears will hear that experience given to you was terrible. So twice as many ears will like, oh, that's crap, so I will not use that service or that business. So that could happen, but the majority of people will not provide feedback. So how can you change that? So there's a lot of things that you can do, and I think we touched early on, touch points, friction. So you can make sure that after a purchase was made, you ask feedback. The rates of people actually answering are very low, but you could still make sure that your emails are as engaging as they can be, in order for people to say, yeah, that experience was awesome, or we'd love you to put a review on Google, or we'd love you to put a review on our website, or we'd love you to put a review on Facebook. So you get a lot of that, and even if it's negative, you could actually say, negative feedback for us is actually something that we nurture and we do love, because it actually helps us to make a better business and have a better business for you. So I think if you're really coming from a place of authenticity and being vulnerable, is that people will relate to this. So you're not like, oh, could you answer these 3 questions? And then, it's like, sure, but what am I gaining? If someone feels that what they're gaining is the satisfaction of knowing that you genuinely want to make that feedback, if it was negative, turn it into positive, then that will be a great thing for you to do. You could actually do a couple of really smart things. You could, when you put your emails, you could say, this is a couple of things, customers were unhappy with, this is what they had to say, and this is how it changed, and this is how the experience is now looking. You can actually do something cool like that, right? You can put it in your emails. You can kind of have it as part of your value proposition, and even your personality and your persona. So you make sure that people know that they are jumping into a safe environment when they want to provide feedback. People are quite fearful of providing feedback because they they don't feel comfortable, right? But they also don't know they're in a safe environment to do it. I, for example, know that I'm in a safe environment to provide feedback to some of my favorite providers, and just because they're cool, they're great, they listen, they quick on emails, they provide a great experience, and I know that I'll be fine and I'll be safe and they will listen to what I have to say. So I think if you create that environment beforehand and then you work on ensuring that that message is across the customer journey, I think people will be very likely providing feedback that they know would shape the experience that they could have with you in the future. Okay, so I will probably say that that could happen. Those are all the questions that I received for today, and I hope that I've provided some answers that were helpful. I really love the fact that a lot of you provided some questions that I could answer today, so I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for that. And I really hope that I could do these sessions again with you guys. I'm probably thinking that I'll run them once a week, and then I'm able to give some cool answers to your queues. And yeah, just really ensure that you guys are up to date with the latest customer experience and marketing trends, and making sure that you're actually coming to me with questions that are really burning questions that you need answers for, and they're quite important in your business. So use this as a platform to ask questions that you're desperate to have answers for, and that you're desperate to really know how you can make things better in your business to gain more customers and increase your profits, and I guess have that empathy all around. That will be amazing. So hopefully I can help going forward as well. Thank you so much for your time and for listening today, and I hope you guys have an amazing day wherever you are. Bye.